allow. Boom. So let's pull up here and let me share this link. It's crystal clear with a nice little delay. I like it. All right, we're gonna get this thing popping. What's up, family? Thanks for pulling up and supporting as always. All right, so let me close this because here we are. I can see the comments here. Booyah, there it is. Thanks for pulling up and supporting as always, family. Appreciate you for show. I'm send this link to a few people, and we're gonna get this thing started tonight. We're gonna talk about hey, what's popping? Yes, we're gonna talk about divorcing our trauma. Um, yesterday is the thing that's holding us back from excelling on today. And so, enough is enough along those lines. We're gonna get this thing popping. And yeah, we're gonna get this conversation flowing. So I'm inviting some folks. Now my granddaughter, I just told her she probably can't find the live. Wait a minute. I don't know. Anywho, yes, that's what we talking about, family. Divorcing our trauma. We're letting it go, and we're gonna talk about the some of the benefits of that breakup. That's what we're gonna talk about. You on both screens, family. I appreciate you. Let's see. Oh, my granddaughter's so loving and supportive. They want to join the live. I love it. So listen, my attention primarily will be over here in the experience. The experience is happening over on YouTube, um, under the Coach Reese Experience or Reese Inspire. So pull up if you want to engage and let's rock and roll. I am sending this out to some folks. Bettina, what's up, family? Sending this out to some folks. Let's see. Da, 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 da. All right, and now we're going to get this thing started in about a minute. People that pull up, much love. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for making the screen light up and all that good stuff. You guys are the bestest. So let's do this right here. So let's go ahead and get this dialogue going. As a matter of fact, whoa, that was that was new and different. I appreciate it. So let me do this because there's a few of you guys over here. So let me throw this mic over here. In fact, Tahita, what's up, family? You can hear me okay? Or do I need a microphone? I'm guessing you can hear me okay. All right. Oh, perfect. I appreciate you, family. Thanks for tapping in and supporting. Good, good, good. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So thanks for pulling up to the experience. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to get this thing started. So tonight's conversation, we're going to talk about divorcing our trauma, right? And it's a word that we just throw around, and it's become one of our cute social media words that we've been using, not to take away from the realness thereof. However, it's become a baked in excuse. And thank you, family. And we've gotten to a place where we are so faithful and committed and locked in and connected to our trauma, so much so that we can't see opportunities that are right in front of us. Um, we can't move forward. We're stuck. We're frozen in time. Um, One of my favorite movie series is I'm a Twilight guy, right? And one of the conversations, one of the vampires, they were talking to Bella before she changed, and she was saying, we're frozen. I want to get old and have grandkids, and be on the porch in my rocking chair. She's like, but we're frozen in time. We'll just always be this. And those of us that are faithful and committed and locked in and doing life, committed to our trauma, we're locked in. We're frozen in time. And I want us to free ourselves. And so I'm going to talk tonight about some of the benefits, because I don't believe, what's up, family? I don't think we really understand the depth of it. And I don't think we really understand the benefits of breaking up with or divorcing our past trauma. We continue to allow yesterday to drive today's decisions and then limit our tomorrow. And we got to do something about that. What's up, family? And we got to do something about that. And the something about that is us taking full responsibility. But I want to really lean into why we should do that. Right. And I want to, again, talk about the benefits of, right? What's happening is we have, because of our commitment to our past trauma, we are allowing our trauma to stop our progress. And the trauma can't actually stop our progress. Our commitment to it, like I've been saying, is the thing that's stopping our progress. We're so committed to the trauma that we're unable to. I'm so committed to what had happened was that I'm unable to, right? I want to, but the trauma. I want to, but I'm holding on to this. I want to pick up some things, but my hands are full holding on to what had happened was. And we have to do better. And so we have to get to a place where we separate from, we stop being so faithful and committed to this trauma. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Divorcing your trauma doesn't mean denying your past. I'm in no way saying we're going to pretend like what had happened didn't happen. However, what I'm saying is we're going to grow to a place where we stop allowing what had happened yesterday drive the way I make decisions on today. We're going to take responsibility for where we are in this moment, and equally as important, where we want to be in the next moment. We're going to take responsibility for how we move from here to there. Or as I love to say, what happens next is up to me. And that sounds cute and all, but if we're still committed to our trauma, if we're still allowing that to hold us back, then what happens next is up to what had happened was. It's not really up to me. And I'm saying, no, we got to trash that. We got to throw that away. So the old pain has to stop running our lives, right? Think about it. I'm not going to allow the pain I experienced in my past relationship to ruin the opportunity to have a beautiful relationship with my wife. Right? I'm not going to allow, right, the where I missed the mark or where I got it wrong or what happened to me or what I did or whatever the case may be to continue to rob me out of the limitless opportunities that are right in front of me today. And so let's go through a couple of the benefits of this divorce, right? Of breaking up with yesterday's trauma, breaking up with the trauma, breaking up with the things that are holding us back. So let's start with mental clarity, right? Let's start with mental clarity, right? When when we're in covenant relationship, right, with the past trauma, what happens is we find ourselves we're fighting against ghosts because there's actually nothing here. The thing happened a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 20 minutes ago, honestly, right? But the thing is actually done with. But what happens is I'm fighting against the ghost of it. And so I can't get clear. What does that look like, Reese? Constantly overthinking, right? And what's so funny, I always point out when we always overthink the negative stuff. We don't overthink we overthink it, right? So when we're overthinking, what we're often doing is we're rehearsing the worst case scenarios. We're going down the list of all the worst case scenarios, all of the right, all of the terrible things that could go wrong in this particular situation. And why is that? It's because the ghost of what had happened was has its grips on us, and we're fighting against right those ghosts. We're we're fighting against those monsters. Let me put a pin right here. This little thing right is an air freshener. It's on a timer and it just sprayed. And God, this thing is strong. Woo. All right, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. We'll edit that part out. No, no, we won't. So anyway, so the monsters from yesterday, right? The ghosts from what had happened was are causing us to overthink, causing us to continue to rehearse and play out these worst case scenarios. That puppy's strong. and and so and then oh, here's another one. Those ghosts from yesterday, right? What they're doing, they're also doing is they're causing us to question good moments. Something good comes along and you can't even enjoy the moment because you like, you waiting on the other shoe to drop, or you're waiting on the or you can't even be present in the moment because your mind, your heart, all your energy is still fixated on what had happened was. And we have to shake that, right? And so what happens is when we break up with, when we divorce, what had happened was, right, when we divorce those old traumas, what tends to happen is our thoughts start to slow down. We're not constantly, right? We can see and we can hear and we can enjoy and be present in the moment. And as simple as that, that's a big deal because most of us can't even enjoy our lives. We can't even enjoy the blessings that are literally in our hand, that are right in front of us because of the ghosts of yesterday, right? And so, the things start to slow down and get clearer, right? We can start to appreciate and see and hear and understand, what we have in front of us. And then our decisions, the choices that we make, things start to become clear because my mind is not clouded by or clouded with what had happened was. Instead, I'm present in the moment. My favorite quote, you already know it. Those of you that rock with me, above all else, be present. And this is why this is a part of me breaking up with my yesterday, right? Above all else, be present. So, above all else, leave the past in the past and focus up on the moment that you're in. And what happens, it puts me in a position where I can make better choices because I'm making my choices based on the options that are in front of me and based on where I'm standing. I'm making the decision to take the next right step from where I am to where I want to be. I'm focused on closing said gap instead of me making decisions from where I was when I went through that particular situation. And now everything is cloudy and goofy and I'm evaluating things, right? I'm considering things that aren't even real anymore. I'm considering things that don't even exist anymore. I'm considering things that don't even have any power. And then another thing that comes with that mental clarity is we get to a place where we can, because now where our senses are more heightened because they're not so clouded, we can respond in a healthy manner, right? Rather than having our emotions and what had happened was clouding how we react, or someone says something to you and you're responding and you're like, what was that? Where'd that come from? Well, the way you look or the way you smell or the way you move or the way you speak or the way you or the way you or the way you reminded me of what had happened, and I sent that heat your way. But when we divorce the trauma, when we break up with it, we get that mental clarity and we can just respond and we can have normal, healthy interactions rather than, right, you cussing me out because I don't know, because I wore a cutoff shirt and what's the name had a cutoff shirt on when y'all went through y'all go through, and now when you see a cutoff shirt on a man, you think whoa, whoa, whoa. So that's one of the the amazing benefits there, right? And so we are going to, as we break up with the trauma, we're going to get that clarity, and we're going to learn how to bring ourselves to the present moment so that we can enjoy and live in the moment and also make decisions from the present moment, not from what had happened was. Hoping that makes sense. If you have questions, throw them in your notes app or something real quick, or just throw them in the chat and just remind me to go back to them. But I want to go through these and then we'll come back, because what's probably going to happen, I'm probably going to answer a lot of the questions depending on the depth. But if it's something you want to touch, just hang out and we'll get back to it for sure. Okay. So mental clarity. So then, as I talked about emotions, let's talk about that. Let's talk about emotional regulation, right? Look, my sis said, "Oh, he had been there." Yes, always be present. Indeed, that's the cheat code. So we got to talk about our emotions, right? When we divorce the trauma, we can now begin to regulate our emotions. When you're still connected to it and committed to it, your emotions start to hijack moments. And so something shows up, right? And now you get so emotional, right? You get so wrapped up in the negative emotion because this reminded you of this, or you got this connected to this, and now you respond in a negative way. Right? You respond from those negative emotions because of what, right? And then again, back to moments. You ever you ever look back like, oh man, I'm tripping. You ever allow your emotions to hijack a moment? Like you had an opportunity to connect, to build something, to make something happen. And then, right, your emotions got in the way because you weren't present, because you were somewhere else and something reminded you of something, or you were triggered, which we're going to talk about, right? And then you respond in a manner that, right? Divorcing the trauma, right? We can shake that. Or I like to say it like this: trauma is a non-trusting thing. It's antitrust. And so now my guard is always up and I'm responding in a way because I feel like I have to protect myself every moment. And yes, we have to always protect ourselves, but no, we don't have to always protect ourselves. We have to get to a place where we can have boundaries without, ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna come back to that one. I'm gonna come back to that one because I just had an idea. In fact, let me throw it in my notes app real quick. Let me throw this in my notes app real quick. All right. Y'all probably like, this dude is crazy. I know he's not. That's how you stay sharp. Take notes so you can get back to it. All right. Actually, we are all good. Okay. All right. Appreciate that. So, moving right along, right? So, what was I talking about? Regulating our emotions. This is a big one, right? A lot of us struggle with this. And I'm saying we're better than that, right? Protection versus, but yes, we're going to get, yes, please hold on to that. Hold on to that because that's a whole idea for us to unpack it by itself. So yes, absolutely. We're going to talk about that, how we can we're going to come back to that. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're building up to it. Yes, those hijack moments are terrible. It's Reese Inspires, or it's as a matter of fact, I'll text it to you. Written there. Give me a moment. All right. All right, so here we go. What are we talking about? We're talking about getting our emotions under control. We're talking about emotional regulation. We're talking about when we break up with the trauma, one of the words I just used was triggers. See, the triggers aren't excuses, right? A lot of people will say, well, that's my trigger, as if that's a license to just bug out and do whatever you want. No, that's not how that works. So what happens is when you break up with your trauma, the triggers stop just becoming gospel in your life, right? They stop being the all knowing, all controlling thing, right? They don't have the authority. And instead, what you can do is what I like to teach people, because this is what I do, is rewire what the triggers mean, right? Because once upon a time, when this was said to me, or when I was in this type of room or this type of experience, or I encountered this type of person, I used to respond in this negative manner. But now, instead of me responding in a negative way like that, what I do now is, so I rewire my brain and then I redefine what that trigger means. So the trigger is still there, because what's up, family? Because there's a connection point there, but I rewire what it means. So once upon a time, right, when I was, in relationship, right, in communion with that trauma, right, it sent me one way. But now that I've taken control and I'm divorcing that, now when those things show up, it's actually fuel in my tank. It actually inspires and encourages me to move in a particular direction. Pardon me. So what I do is I make it a big deal. I make it a self-love type thing. I make it a situation where I do something for me, where I stand up for me. I show up for me. I show myself a little bit of extra loving in the face of those triggers where once upon a time, right, I put myself down. I attacked people. I shut down. I plug in whichever immature response, right, you will. So we can redefine what those triggers mean. And then another thing that happens is we can recover faster when life punches us in the face, right? TikTok, I love y'all. My primary focus is I'm over here on YouTube is at Reese Inspires, or the Coach Reese experience. So, but I'm here. I'm locked in with y'all too. I love y'all. So you recover faster when life punches you in the face. It's the punches in the face are inevitable. Life is gonna go upside your head. That's if anything's consistent, it's that, right? And so when, not if, when that does happen, when you divorce the triggers, you can get up faster. You can get back in the game quicker. You don't associate, because here's what's happening. Life punches you in the face, and now you don't even look at what happened, right? As much as you look at the reason that happened is because, and then you list out your traumas. You list out the past. You list out what had happened was. And now you are giving so much more power to what had happened was, because now you're saying, oh shoot, the blue can fell. Ooh, that was loud. The blue can fell because now you 30 years ago, and you, my sis said, is shutting down is immature. Yes. Yes. And please make me explain. Please make me explain. Yes, that's an immature response. Yes. Yes. I'll gladly unpack it. Gladly. So we're divorcing the trauma, and we're moving different. We're taking responsibility for ourselves. We're taking control of our emotions, and we're not allowing them to govern us anymore. And we're not using what had happened was as an excuse to just lose ourselves in these negative emotions and just respond the way we wanted to respond anyway, but we're going to blame it on what had happened was. Nah, we're not doing that anymore. We're growing up, we're taking full responsibility, and most importantly, we're divorcing this trauma, that we're taking our power back from what had happened was. Did it happen? Yes. However, we're no longer going to allow what happened yesterday again to drive and control today's decisions, right? And so we're moving differently, right? What else? We're showing up in all of our awesomeness, right? We're giving ourselves permission to be strong and confident and show up in the manner that God intends for us to show up. And stop playing small, and stop dimming our light, and stop using what had happened was as justification for you not showing up in all of your awesomeness today. That was sip worthy. Most of us have the skills, we have the abilities, we have the gifts and talents, we have the love, support, we have the tools, we have all the things we need to live an amazing life. But we keep telling ourselves that we're not worthy, we're not capable, we're not enough because of what had happened was not because we can't take the next step, not because we don't have access to, right, to move in the direction that we need to move, but because we're telling ourselves that we're not allowed, right? Or we don't belong, or we're not enough because of what had happened was. You see the danger of being so closely connected to being in covenant relationship with that trauma, because we're like faithful and committed to it. And so we're so committed to it that we use it as justification for us not to show up today, for us to dim our light, for us not to walk strong and confident. That's why so many of you are waiting on permission and approval to move forward. That's why so many of you, you have these ideas and you won't move forward because you're waiting on someone to put a stamp on you, to approve of you. You don't need to be validated. You don't need to be validated. You know. You sign your own permission slip. You give yourself permission to move. But what's happening is, again, we're allowing yesterday to dictate to us what's possible for us today. And then a lot of us are struggling so much so we're struggling to even love on ourselves. We're struggling to invest in ourselves. We're struggling to do anything for ourselves because we feel like if I do something for me, that there's something wrong with me, that it's selfish, or that we've told ourselves this throughout our lives, and we're living far beneath what we were intended to be, the way we were intended to be living. There's so much more available to us and for us, and we're not accessing the things that are available to us and for us. And now we find ourselves frustrated and we're looking for someone or something to blame, but the only thing stopping us is us. And the reason that we're stopping ourselves again is because we're so committed to yesterday. Because if you think about it right now, the reason you're not moving forward, think about it. Take a moment. When you look at your I would but list, those excuses are grounded in what had happened was. Even if you are pointing to something that you see as a roadblock in your life today, I guarantee you, if we have a 5 minute conversation, when we peel the layers back, what's under that excuse is the result of, or is something that you're carrying from what had happened was. It's not that's not actually stopping you. Again, it's the power that you give it because of what you connected it to and your relationship with those things. And so we got to break up with that. We got to get to a point where we give ourselves permission to move forward, where we understand that we are worthy, we are deserving, we are capable, right? And I choose me. It is whatever I say it is. That's one of my rules for life. Nothing has meaning till I assign it meaning, and it is whatever I say it is. So if I say it's possible, it's possible. But the dangerous part is if I say it's not possible, it's not possible. And too many of us are telling ourselves that it's not possible, and therefore we're not moving as if it's possible. We're not showing up for ourselves. We're not. And one of the things we need to understand is that we need to show up with all of our awesomeness. Like, why play small? Why dim your light? Why have these skills and abilities and hide them? Why be beautiful and duck and dodge? What, right? Why have something to say, something to offer, something that can literally improve and change the world, and not put yourself out there, not share those gifts, not have a positive impact on the world because what now? Because you tripping about what had happened was? And I'm not throwing stones because we've all been there. And this is something that shows up all the time. It'll show up, and if you kind of fight it, it might hide a little bit. Then it'll show up in another way, and it'll find another tricky way to show up in your life. But what I'm talking about is we need to totally divorce this trauma. We need to completely separate from it. So, and we need to take our power back from it because we've given too much power to yesterday. And so we need to get to a place where we learn how to trust ourselves instead of thinking that we have to protect everything, and we can't even live because we're just worried about this, and what about this, and what if this happens, and what if this happens, this happened because this happened before, and this happened, and then we're like going bonkers. And like we can just relax. and we can just enjoy the present moment, and then we can decide what we want, and then we can make decisions that move us from where we are to where we want to be, separate from what had happened was. Family, please hang around because that's a beautiful question. The question is, how do you divorce the trauma if you're still in the midst of it? Oh, I got you. I got you for sure. In fact, these questions are so good. I'm ready to just get to the questions. So, in fact, let's do that, right? Ain't no rules here. I'll make the rules. It's the experience, right? So, we had a couple questions over here, and then family, please just hang out. We're going to get to that one. So, let me see. We had a couple questions over here. What were your, let me see if I can find them over here in the chat. What were those questions? Da, 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 da. The boundary thing that came up, right? This is a good one here. This is a good one here, right? And the way that I look at it is this, right? Um, we have to have boundaries without walls, right? We have to. I can protect my peace without isolating myself, if that makes sense, right? My boundaries, right? This is what I am willing to accept. This is what I don't. And these are the rules, right? This is how, these are the demands that I have for how I am to be treated. And the way that I put those out there, I don't write them on a tablet. I don't show you them. I don't send you a list. I treat me in a particular way, and it shows the world how to treat me. And so the boundaries again, no, this is what I accept. And the way that I govern those boundaries is just with my yes and my no. Like I don't have to tell you that I don't, or I no. I just say yes when I want to say yes, and I say no when I want to say no, right? And I treat myself with love and honor and respect and appreciation, and I invest in me. And so the way that I treat me, right, shows you how to treat me. And then my yes and my no, that's what governs my boundaries. Now, when I have a wall up, right? So again, we're talking about the idea is we can have boundaries without the walls, right? The wall says nobody can get close to me. You see the difference? Nobody can get close to me. I don't trust anybody. Nope, I'm shutting down, right? Boundaries, boundaries are like limits, healthy limits, whereas the walls are armor. So there's my healthy limits that I govern, right, based on how I treat myself, and then the power of my yes and my no, and pardon me, and then there's the emotional armor that I put on when I'm just like nope, nothing, no one can get close. I'm just and then I'm shutting down, and I don't want no parts of no. No, nothing. Nope. I don't care. It looks good. It smells good. And it's actually interesting and enticing, but no, because I have this wall up. Right. And so we just, when we have the walls up, right, we don't, we limit our connections, right? We prevent depth or making healthy connections out of fear. Whereas boundaries just say, I can connect and move, but there's clarity here. I'm letting you know who I am and where I stand on certain things. And again, I don't have to say it. Occasionally, I may have to let you know because you acting a little goofy. My yeses and nos weren't clear enough, and so I may have to, right, draw a line in the sand. I may have to, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I may have to, be a little more aggressive with letting you know. But that's one out of 100 times. If I treat myself a particular way and I say yes, and my yes means yes and my no means no, that is what will set the limits. That is what will set those healthy limits. Whereas the wall just, right, that just keeps everyone out. So we can have boundaries without walls. And it's an interesting, tricky kind of way to unpack it and look at it, but it's extremely healthy. All right, let me see. Boom, 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 boom. Let me see. So, uh, I hope that one made sense. Boom, 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 boom. So now, appreciate it, family. So a question came over here. Shutting down is immature. And I said yes. I said yes fast. And it's like, well, why? Because when we shut down, what are we doing? Right? What are we doing? We're putting up a wall. And so now why do we do that? We're protecting ourselves, but why? There's fear, right? And we have the reasons are valid. However, where's the value in shutting down? Right? It's like, are you 15 and you mad because I said you couldn't go to the mall with your friends and you go into your room and slam the door? Like what? Like where's the value in that? Where's the growth in that? Where's the power in that? Because you're giving away, you're surrendering your power. You're just hiding and playing small. And so I look at it like this. We can create some space again. We can set healthy boundaries again with my yes and my no, right? But oftentimes the shutdown becomes is more about a discomfort within me. It's more about a me and me thing. But when I'm comfortable with me, like when I'm comfortable saying no, because I understand no is a complete sentence, and I don't feel any guilt or goofy energy behind it, because right. And when I say yes, when I want to say yes, right. And when I treat myself a particular way, and when I live with personal integrity, right, my thoughts, words, and actions are in alignment. I don't need to shut down. And if I do feel the need to shut down, it's something I need to explore. Okay, well, shut down for what? Do I not have the words? Okay, great. I need to find them. Am I angry and I'm shutting down because I don't want to punch you in your mouth? Great. However, that should just be a second. That should be a moment. Obviously, we have to be tactful and mature, and we have to move, right? We have to decide what the outcome is that we're looking for and then move accordingly. So, if I have to separate myself for a brief moment so that I can gather my thoughts, so that I don't give away my power in this moment, because if I lash out, if I just say whatever, if I match energy, right? If I respond in a weak way like that, I'm giving away my power. But if I say, "Whoa, you know what? You got it, fam," and I separate myself, right? And then I revisit the situation, whether that be it was some idiot in the market and I just gave him the win, right? In his mind, because I didn't want to, or whether it's someone that I love and that I'm close to, or whatever, someone I have to interact with, and I didn't like where my energy was, where I was going, so to speak, with the conversation, and so I pulled back, and I had to regroup, remember who I am, remember whose I am, and decide what's the outcome that I'm looking for here, and then revisit the interaction, revisit the conversation after that. So so my response to, is that immature? I say yes. Now, obviously, I don't have the whole story, but I'm just giving generalities here. But think about it. I believe it is. I believe that's the 15-year-old you going slamming your room door because you can't get a Stanley Cup. You had to get this Amazon joint that was like 20 in the pack that we used at my crib. But you wanted a Stanley and you mad at me, so you gonna slam your room door and go in your room and you're upset and you're not speaking to me. And we do that as whole grown people. And how are we gonna have a healthy relationship if the way we respond to, right, something we don't like, by shutting down? How do we build? What do we do with that? We we have to deal with these things. We have to face them head on. And again, sometimes we can step away, but then, right, we need to revisit it. We need to, and again, that the stepping away in that moment, that's me protecting myself, right? But you know, shutting down, because why am I shutting down? It's either because, well, there's a lot of reasons, right? And we have our reasons. And again, the reason is legit. Hey, Sheila, because we were all just 17 yesterday. Listen, this morning, for sure, right? So think about it. Okay, yeah, people start doing this. Da, 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 I just shut down because I ain't got time. Okay, well, what? Okay, at some point we gotta have time. And here's the thing, time can be making some changes in my environment, in how I interact with people. And then I'm coming to your question over there, family, I promise you, right? So, how I'm going to, I have to decide, right, how I'm going to show up in all of my awesomeness and not allow anyone or anything to cause me to dim my light and to cause me to behave in a manner that, right, that's not becoming, right, that doesn't align with my values of right now. there's some there's some sometimes young Reese want to show up and deal with some things, but I gotta tell him, no, sit down, young boy, I got it. And what that used to look like is shutting down, because I'm gonna just shut down, because if I say what I want to say, right, just it's over. It's over for everybody, right? You think you're upset with me now if I say what I want to say, and right? She says, so mature me. So she says, so mature me will speak the truth that could not only rock the boat, but potentially sink it. So again, we have to, and this is beautiful, right? So what's the desired outcome here? What do I want to happen? Right? What do I want to happen? Right, what's the outcome I want here? Is this a lesson that I want to teach? Is this something I just want to do? I just want to put a person in their place. What do I want here? What's my intention? Right? What do I want to happen here? Because to your point, listen, you got the torpedo that can sink the whole ship, like you said. That's not really what you want to do, so you shut down. So those aren't the only options: sink the ship or don't say nothing. Well, there's no peace in that. There's no peace in don't say nothing, and there's no peace in sinking the ship. Well, maybe a little bit, but there's no long term peace now, maybe. But anyway, we don't want to just sink. We just want to go around just blowing everything up, just sinking all the ships. We don't want to do that, because then that's going to run its course as well. So what's a more sophisticated way to deal with this? I'm not shutting down because if I have something to say, or right, if I have input, or if I need to steer this ship in a particular way, if we need to move from, right, the way we're moving to a healthier space, and if it's going to be a little tight, cool. But if I'm sinking the ship, right? Because we can have some tough conversations and it can get tight, and some tears can be shed, and some feelings can be hurt, and some doors can be slammed. But the ship stays afloat, and now we're turning in the direction that we need to turn, because perhaps we were drifting this way because I kept shutting down, like, we need to go that way, but I ain't saying nothing because there you don't want to hear what I gotta say, and we just drift in the wrong way. So, okay, what I'm saying has value. What I'm saying has value. So, right, if I need to shut down in a moment because what I was ready to do was launch this torpedo and just sink this whole bleepity bleeper and call it a night. Okay, so I gotta find what's the, even if it's not the middle ground, what's a more sophisticated way to navigate this, and what's the outcome that I'm looking for? What do I want to happen here? Because what I don't want to do is just lash out and just sink the ship and just right. And the fact that I'm thinking this way generally means that there's some value here, because again, if it's the idiot at the market, you can just make sure you're safe and just keep it pushing, like, you know you can just save yourself the headache, right? That video going viral of you doing the things to the idiot at the market, right? Like, it might be fun in the moment, but then what, right? Now you going through the go through, now you in the system, and whoop whoop whoop, because that idiot, you know had you fucked up and thought you was somebody that you weren't. But anyway, so yeah, so we're thinking more sophisticated now, right? We're not just shutting down and not saying anything and letting you have it because or sinking the ship, right? We're graduating from those being the only two options, and we're saying, what's a more sophisticated way to handle this? And we're thinking it through. What do I want to happen? Right? What do I want to happen? I want them to understand. I want them to value my opinion. I want to boom, boom, boom. I recognize that we're headed toward danger. However, right, because you haven't been respecting my opinions here, right? Every time I go to say something, you attack me. So I'm just going to shut it down. So that's not righting the ship. Sometimes righting the ship is Sometimes we got to check some people. Sometimes we got to, and that's okay. Tough conversations are great. Tough conversations are good. That's healthy. We're processing through, we're moving along. But I don't want to sink the ship, right? If I got to have some rough talks with my sons or with my wife or whomever, wherever, we just, the intention behind those conversations is to build. It's not to collapse the whole thing, because we all have some weapons in the tuck that we can, right? we could tear the whole thing apart. But again, it's not tear the whole thing down or shut down. We're growing to it. We're more sophisticated than that. We're better than that, and we're going to find the language. We're going to figure out how to navigate it. We're going to process through. We're going to search ourselves. We're going to figure this out. If our intention is to continuously grow, and if you hang with me, that's one of the side effects. So, and we can we can build on this. If so, there was a question over here. Let's see. Let me come back. Hold on. What's that? Da-da-da. I think it's in the manner or the tone of our voice when we're speaking. Oh, that's huge. The delivery matters in a huge way. Let's see. We gotta. Okay, here we are. Question is, how do you divorce the trauma if you're still in the midst of it? I'm gonna say it again. How do you divorce the trauma if you're still in the midst of it? I can change me prior to the circumstances changing. That's how the circumstances end up changing. Delivery matters in a huge way. And so I can be in a particular environment and I can begin, if I desire a more healthy environment, then I can start to learn a new, healthier language. I can start engaging with the people, places, and things that are a part of a new healthy environment. I can pursue new healthy relationships. I can start to change my inputs, which in turn will begin to change my outputs. And I can learn, I can grow, I can transform myself right in the midst of the BS. Is it more challenging? Of course. Actually, hold on. Let me reset real quick. Hold on. Actually, the pressure of being in it can actually be fuel. See, if you on easy street and you chilling and you need to make some changes, but if you're in the heat of it, let's say you're living in an environment that's unhealthy, right? Let's say you live around where I'm from, right? You in the hood and it's wild and it's all kinds of, and you want to get you and your folks out of there. Well, if you don't have the means to just pick up and move, you gotta work a plan, right? You gotta start thinking about, right, where do you want to go, right? What does healthy look like? It isn't this. Well, what does it look like? And you need to do some exploration, because what you'll find, and I've experienced this personally, you'll say, you know what, man, this is a good environment. It has the schools, it has the type of lifestyle look, it's walkable, it's this, whatever the things are, right? Just using this example. And then you start to explore, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, fine, that's a little more, but that's actually manageable. If I downsize, right, the size of the crib, right? If I sell my house in the hood and go get an apartment in this beautiful suburb, my entire life will transform. Am I no longer a homeowner? Great, right? But, or if I'm renting in the hood and the environment sucks and the schools aren't great and it's drama and it's this and it's that and it's this and it's that, and I want to be in a different environment, you'd be surprised. It's usually not as far off as you would think. Trust me, I've done this. And you look and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is more mature, right? It's super surprising. And so that's one. So I'm just throwing some things out there, right? These are some ways. Let's say you're in a relationship that's just unhealthy, barring you are in like physical danger or anything like that. I'm just talking about things just aren't, whatever, right? You still feel like you're in the midst of, right, things that's causing you pain. Well, then now there's a lot of self exploration that needs to happen, right? What's in me that this particular thing continues to take from me? How do I show up as the best of me in spite of what's going on around me? I make a decision that I'm not going to allow the environment to dictate to me who I am. I'm going to show up as the best of me. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. I'm going to change me. So I can change me right in the mix of it all. I went from running the streets, on the block, doing all these things. I still lived right there in the hood that I grew up in. And I started going to church every Sunday. And then I started going on Friday nights teaching the teenagers. And then it turned into my entire weekend was done because we would go to have youth night at the church from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. The idea was we want to give them a positive outlet. So we would go, we would be there all night. And then they wanted to come to our house. My children were very, very young at this time. So it's like, cool, let's go. Now we in the hood, 2 bedroom little crib on the block. We got teenage bodies just laying all around. They just sleeping wherever they fall. Cool. And they're at our house all weekend. And then we figure out, sometimes we would have to go get the church van, but figure out, go to church on Sunday. So I went from partying, but I was right there in the hood. But I wanted better. I wanted different. And I made the decision to start making changes in my life. And so my input started changing, my desires started changing, and I started to think, speak, and act like the person that I wanted to become. And I didn't let the fact that I was still living on the block, right? I was still on the block, keep me from, I was no longer of the block, so to speak. I was still in the mix, and it took some time now. However, I made the decision and I put in the work. And so the being in the midst of it is more reason to focus up, is more reason to make the investments in yourself, it's more reason to figure it out. That's my take on it. And I can keep going. And obviously the more specific, the more specific I can speak to it, the more information I have, the more I can speak to a specific situation. It's learning how to separate from the trauma, maybe checking your emotion. That's a big one. That's huge, right? That's really, really huge. And so depending on what it is and what you've been giving your power to, it's a matter of taking your power back and deciding who it is you want to be, how you want to show up, and doing the work necessary to change you. Because the only thing we have control over is what? Our attitude and our actions. I can't just change the environment, or the way I can change the environment is by changing me. Back to the boundaries earlier. One of the things I said was boundaries, right? My yes and my no, and the way that I live and the way that I treat myself, the decisions that I make. So when I start to think differently and speak differently and make different decisions, right? That's how I change my environment, because I change me. So it's an inside out thing. I change me. I can't go around and what am I do? I can get on my soapbox and stand on the corner and hoot and holler and say whatever, but what's that doing? But when I change, and then the encouragement and empowerment that comes from that, because when one of our own makes some different decisions and starts to change right in front of us, it's confusing at first and you might be the butt of the joke for a while, but then this was my experience, right? You know, I went from being in the mix, one of the guys, to transitioning, right? And I'm sure I was the butt of the joke and I was this and that. But to this day, guess who everyone comes to, right? Everyone that may or may not have something to say, because it didn't come to me, because what were you going to say? Ha, you want to be positive now all of a sudden? But when they're struggling, when life punches them in the face, I'm the person they lean on because they saw the transformation. So if you want to have a positive impact on the environment, focus on changing you. And then that's how the ripple effect of you changing you will then in turn change the environment. So so you can absolutely positively divorce the trauma while you're in the midst of whatever the situation is, because it's a mindset thing. It's an identity thing. I no longer identify as being connected and committed to this. You no longer have power over me. We've all been through a quote unquote breakup before, right? You get to a point where the person's opinions don't matter to you anymore, where once upon a time they meant everything, right? You know, you completely separate from them physically, emotionally, all the things. And when we do that with our trauma, we start to see the world differently. We start to experience life differently. And that can happen in the midst of, I just gave a few examples, and we can go further if need be. So those are some ways to attack it. Let's see. You can't change others, only yourself. Absolutely. You don't even have to entertain them or that exactly, right? So what we have to do, right? Gotta remove you, but excuse me, gotta remove you. God will remove, but you must work on you first. 100%, because it's all you can do anyway. That's the mature. Exactly. I like it. I've been, yeah, see, right. So, and we've all been there. And so, and I love how you put that, right? We need to control the controllables. Sometimes we're so fixated on, they ought to and they need to and they should and God fix this and fix them and change this and change them, as if we don't have a laundry list of things that we can improve, that we can level up, that we can, right, change and transform to become a better version of ourselves. And so when we shift our focus to our personal growth, then all that other stuff, right? So, and right in the midst of the trauma, can we do this? Lady Dolphina, what's up, family? Da-da-da-da. Keep the questions coming. Boop, boop, boop. So we're talking about divorcing our trauma. We're talking about taking our power back. We're talking about not allowing what had happened yesterday to cheat us out of living an amazing life today. We're talking about divorcing, literally separating ourselves from, no longer considering, no longer giving. It's like, it's like someone could be employee of the month, but if you find out they're stealing and they get fired, they no longer have access. They can't get in the building. They don't have access to the systems. They don't. You move on and you figure out how to function without them. You move forward, right? You check things, you evaluate, you look at everything and everyone that's left, and you rally the troops, you rally the team, and you keep the mission going. So what does that look like with us, right? You can let go of what had happened was, because you're ruining all of the opportunities that are in front of you, not because you don't have the skills, the abilities, the tools, the gifts, the talents, the support. You don't have all the things. You're missing out on the opportunities in front of you because of what had happened was. And we got to take responsibility for that. And so that's what divorcing your trauma is about, because there's too many of us, again, we're stuck in yesteryear. We're stuck in what had happened was. What's up, family? We're stuck in what happened to us. She said, I don't really care about nobody else. I care about me. That's great. I think that's beautiful. And if you can really, really focus in and just zero in on developing you and becoming a better you, think about the limitless opportunities that show up for you. What's up, fam? Think about the limitless opportunities that show up for you. Because when you take everything else and everyone else out of the equation, it's just you versus you, right? It's just you pushing yourself and challenging yourself to become, again, a higher expression of yourself. You're removing people, and you're locked in. And that really simplifies the battlefield, because it's like, okay, cool. You know what? I don't even have to worry about Sally and Susie and Jimmy and Honey and nah. Okay, what do I want? Cool. What direction do I need to turn? Cool. What's step one? Cool. And when I hesitate, well, what's going on with that? I look in the mirror, I check myself, I see what's going on with that. And if I've allowed something from yesterday to creep in, I face it, I deal with it, and I continue to press forward because I have the power always. She said, period. You forgot the T, Sheila. All right, let's see. I was in a situation where I had something of importance to talk about, but was always shut down. It was frustrating. That is extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating. So we have to solve for that, right? So we have to solve for that. So we say, okay, clearly this is a relationship, right? Whether it be romantic, whether it be your parent, whether it be a coworker, whoever, right? There's a relationship here. And if you have something to say, that matters. And something of importance to talk about. And then, but was always shut down. Okay, so we need to solve for this. And we need to figure out, okay, how am I going to get through to this person? Then you have to look at, right, who the person is. Okay. Okay, hey, listen, Sally, can I get a word? Yeah, what's up? Listen, I need you to give me 60 seconds to get this out without interrupting. What do you mean? I do have some things to talk to you about. Let me know when it's okay. Right? I'm not, that's not shutting down. You gave them the ball, you put the ball in their court. Like, hey, I have something important that I'd like to discuss, right? But I need to be able to communicate what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I need to be able to get this out. And you let them know. You set the ground rules. And if there's pushback, okay, great. You respond the way you need to respond. And if there's still pushback, you say, all right, you know what? This right here is exactly why I positioned it the way that I did. Because think about what just happened. I told you I had something to say that was important. And I requested that you give me the floor so that I can, but you, right? And you talk them through it. Very calm, right? Because this is about protecting your peace. This is about keeping things in order for you. Yes, always an argument, so I was just swept under the rug. Communication was not key. So in a situation like that, then you have to zoom out, look at the situation, and if you're trying different ways to approach it, right? If there's an opportunity for a mediator, right, then we go that route. But if the person just doesn't value communication and just continues to show you that they don't value you, there's obviously some deeper things going on. And obviously, depending on the type of relationship, is going to depend on the steps to how we explore it. But if this person simply does not value communication and just does not respect what you have to say, where they won't even give you the floor and allow you to speak, then again, based on the relationship, right, you have to figure out what the next steps are going to look like. Right? If it's a parent, then maybe you have to get a mediator and go through someone else. Mommy never lets me get a word in, ... Dad never lets me get a word in, ... Right? Grandpa never lets me get a word in, ... If it's your supervisor, right? Okay. Then you need to go around them. You need to schedule a meeting where there's a mediator so that you can get an understanding of what your role is, what your responsibilities are, right? And so that, right, you can look, I'm here. I have value. I don't want, I don't want y'all to, when it's time to do my evaluation, to say that I don't never had no input, that I'm not a valuable member of the team. When every time I go to speak up, this joker cuts me, right? And you have to approach it. If it's a romantic relationship, right, and you're not able to reach them that way via conversation, okay, let me write this down. Let me do a voice note, or, figure out who a person is that you both really respect, and perhaps, go that route. But you have to try some different things. But, Don't lose your cool because someone else is making these goofy choices, and don't allow it to cause you to start to devalue yourself, because a lot of times that's what we'll do. We'll start to shrink in these situations, right? We'll start to shrink. And then, depending on the situation, depending on who it is, we'll start to believe the garbage that they're throwing our way. That's what happened to me. That's why my confidence was shot for so long. Because in my former life, right, I had the people closest to me telling me to dim my light, basically, telling me that, not to turn my brightness up and be the man that God built me to be. They told me to shrink. They told me to play small. They took right. I was sold this way of navigating the world that literally taught me how to shrink. I went from being, you know, being a loud, aggressive, trash talking ball player to I transition and I start walking with God. I start learning some things, and so my interpretation was okay. The people that have been doing this for decades, right? Their way is the right way. So let me make these adjustments, and then that's why. And those of you that rock with me, right? Y'all know I don't like the word humility because it's a lowly opinion of oneself. And people, when you start to, it's like, be confident, be strong, God loves you, yes, you can do it. And then when you start doing it, it's like, no, calm down, sit down, no, 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 don't do that, don't. And you're like, well, do I go or do I not go? What the heck? Oh, you see my robot, Sheila? What's happening here? And so that's a lot of us. So, and we buy into it because it's people that we love, it's people that we respect, it's people that, right, that we value. And so we have to be careful not to lose ourselves in that. We have to be very, very careful not to lose ourselves in that, because that happened to me, and it still shows up to this day. And we're talking about a decade at this point, a decade separated from that at this point. But it's still past trauma, right? It still tries to show up. Pardon me. So I have to fight like crazy to stand up tall and to turn my brightness up and to continue to shine. It's a fight that I've been fighting for a very long time. And I'm still in this fight. It was so deep rooted. But it didn't stop me from growing. It didn't stop me from showing up. It didn't stop me from trying, right? It prolonged it a bit, but I just took those opportunities to continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to develop myself. I never stopped learning and growing and building, even when I felt off or out of place or this or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of ways to navigate that. The big thing is there. Don't lose yourself in that. Continue to love yourself, continue to invest in yourself, continue to make moves. And obviously, depending on the relationship, right? Take the necessary steps, right? If it's like a work thing, make sure you are covering yourself. Make sure you are showing your value, not in a corny, over the top, weird way, but, right? Hey, listen, if we need to sit down and we need to bring in mediators and we need to bring in the whole team and do some things because this is happening again. And if it's a romantic whatever it is, take the necessary steps to work the problem, but don't shrink. Don't you shrink, because what happens is we'll inadvertently start to believe that what we have to say, what we think, what we feel. You said there are things that of importance that I needed to say. And so you'll start to think that what you need to say is not important. And you'll start to, and it'll be inadvertent. It'll just be like, okay. And that's why shutting down can be dangerous, because the shutdown, right? You're telling you what you're inadvertently telling yourself is what you have to say is not important. All right, no, all right, you got it. No, no, it's okay. When I do that, what I'm telling my nervous system is that my opinion doesn't matter, my perspective doesn't matter, my right what I think and feel doesn't matter. That's what I'm doing, even if it's in an effort to an attempt to keep the peace. Sometimes we're just like, you know what, no, you got it. I don't even, no, you got it, and we're just trying to keep the peace. But when that becomes the norm, what message am I sending? I'm sending a message to myself that I'm not important, that what I have to say doesn't matter, that I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm not enough. And that piles on and we can lose ourselves. I'm living proof of that. Man, I'm so grateful to be on the other side of that mountain. But that's a real monster that can, and again, get us and we don't even realize it. Okay, so maturity finds the language to cultivate truth, safety, and acceptance. Beautifully said. Exactly. And it may take, it's going to take a few extra steps. Because if we've been dealing with each other in a particular way for X amount of time, and now you have an aha moment, and now all of a sudden well, I didn't have the aha moment, you did. So so we have to understand that relationships a lot of times we're on a seesaw. We're like, you're here, and then it's like, then you're sick of it, and now they're here, they want to meet you there, and then we're trying to get it, as we're trying to dance around here, but oftentimes and we have to understand that that's a normal part of the process. And so we have to keep showing up, keep investing in ourselves. And to Dee Dee's point, right? She said maturity finds the language to cultivate truth, safety, and acceptance. And something like that, when you're on that mission, sometimes you can get caught up because it's like, I'm I'm working to build something beautiful. Truth, safety, acceptance. I'm taking the mature route, right? I'm doing this. I'm thinking through this. I'm doing this. I'm approaching it a particular way, and I'm getting pushback. You giving me your to kiss, and we can take right, but life is funny like that. I've been out here in these streets 10 years easy, begging people to invest in themselves. I'm not gonna say begging, but trying to find a way to get people to love themselves enough to invest in themselves. And not by investing in me, but by investing in you. I've been imploring people to love themselves, to think, speak, and act in a manner that aligns with the person that they want to become. And you would think that people would love that. People would be like, yes, but people run the other way. That's just the world we live in. So I said that to say, as you're navigating this, right? When you get pushback, when you get pushback, when you're doing something that's positive, when you're being obedient to God, when you're doing something that makes perfect sense, and you're still getting pushback, you gotta keep going. You gotta stay the course. And keep going, stay the course doesn't mean everybody gets to go with you. Doesn't mean you don't create space. Because I've created, listen, I put miles between myself and some people that I love very much. But their goals, their motives, right? Their energy doesn't align with where I am and where I'm going. I have to love you from afar because I'm on this particular road. I'm climbing this particular mountain. I'm moving in this particular direction. And if there's no alignment, it's okay. I'm not upset. And please, please don't be upset. Hope you're not upset. But I'm a man on a mission. I got to keep going. And I'm here. However, I'm a man on a mission. I got to keep going. And that it can get really tricky when you have something of importance to say and you can't get a word in. When you're trying to cultivate truth, safety, and acceptance and you're getting pushback. It's like, what? I might as well just go in, right? I might as well be an a-hole. If I'm doing it this way and I can't get through, then and that's where we get, right? Like you said earlier, sink the ship or we just shut down. We sink the ship or we shut down. And I'm saying let's challenge ourselves to be more sophisticated and find a healthier way to navigate that, a way that allows us to show up in all of our awesomeness and not to dim our light and to be true to who we are and to continue to move forward and learn and grow and stretch and not shrink and not inadvertently do damage to ourselves, not inadvertently dim our light, not inadvertently damage our own self-esteem and self-image because we're making these changes to either just you got it, player. I'm just gonna shut down and let you have it because whatever, or I'm gonna sink the ship and now I gotta keep starting over and I gotta. So I'm saying no, let's figure out a healthier way to navigate it. And it's tough. It's extremely tough. All right, so let me see. We got a couple more comments over here. Do I really have to love them? You don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of it. My mentor used to say, well, the first thing is you don't have to do nothing. You don't have to make any changes. You're not obligated to do anything. So to the question, do I really have to love them? No, you don't have to. You really don't. But then the question is, is that actually an option? You know, there's a few people that are real that, but you really don't have to. And then love them. Like there's a way to define that. Because there's some people that I love that I don't communicate with. And it's simply because our lives are on totally different trajectories. And that's okay. Like that's okay. And when you understand that that's okay, it helps both sides because it helps me to move without feeling guilty or obligated to, right? Without having that survivor's remorse or that survivor's guilt. And it helps me to understand that if I'm disconnected from someone, it doesn't mean that they don't like me or they hate me or they. No. Just like I love some people from far, there's some people that love me from far. And that's just human nature. That's just the process. She said it's more than a few. I get it. Some of us, that's the story of our lives. The people that we communicate with on a regular basis are few and far between, and the ones we actually want to communicate with, that list is even shorter. And even that deserves a challenge, deserves to be examined and looked at because what is this? Why is that? You know what I mean? What's the thought behind that? Why am I so separated? Oh, okay. And if it makes sense, it makes sense for you, right? Because then you don't have to do anything. Let's see. Da, 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 da. And the thing is, I worked on my delivery too, so they would be receptive. And that's the thing that can be frustrating. You're like, I done took my time. I done chose my words wisely. I done tried to speak in a language that I know you would understand, and you still. Okay, so you're determined. So you have no desire to connect. Cool. And then it becomes an issue of. So here's something earlier you said, family, and I appreciate you. You said, or someone said it. I think you did say you said that communication was not key, right? Whereas often when we talk about relationships, right, that's the thing we always say: communication is key, and that's any relationship, a friendship. You're talking about siblings. You're talking about parent-child. You're talking about, professional relationship, and obviously romantic relationship. Communication, right? That's the cheat code. That's the secret weapon. And if it's not important to someone, or if it's only halfway important, right? If they're operating under this assumption that only what they have to say is important and they don't really, right? If they're selfish communicators, then that's a big problem. And so when people talk about relationships, right? Communication is always the top of the list. I have something that I place slightly above communication as a key to a healthy relationship. And what I believe is slightly above communication is mutual respect. When when mutual respect exists, right? Then we can have the dialogue, right? We can have the healthy communication because we have that mutual respect for one another. Sadly, in these relationships, right, where you see things like this, there's an issue of respect there. There's a lack of respect there. They don't respect, right? They don't value. It's like when we grew up. Now I'm flirting with 50, right? I'm probably older than most of y'all. Well, the generation before me, shut up, speak when you're spoken to, don't talk back, don't ask questions because I said so. Look, do as I say, not don't do as I do. That's how they justified smoking and drinking and cussing and fussing and the list of things they told you not to do. They literally had the audacity to say, you know, do as I say, don't do as I do. While they smoke a Newport and drink something nasty. While they do certain things, exhibit these ugly negative behaviors that they will beat you, go upside your head if you show these behaviors, but they get to show those behaviors and just justify it with do as I say, don't do as I. So and so that's that's the generation from which I come, and I decided, nah, this ain't right. No, what? Yeah, that's where that's what we that's where we're from, right? And it's okay, right? That was what they had. But then, right, my generation, because I'm the generation who had a life without the internet and then a life with. I'm that unique generation. I didn't grow up all internet and I didn't grow up all right. So I've been so having access to information, having access to other people, having access to different perspectives and being able to learn and ask questions and so we're in a different place now. But even prior to, right, the maturity of the internet, I had this in mind that wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And I really believe it's because I'm an athlete and I understand that, oh, like it's about action, it's about the next play, it's about, right, it's about boom boom, it's about making it happen, it's about, you make a mistake, my bad, you keep going. It's about, no, it's still time on the clock, let's go, let's go, let's go. So a lot of the things that I do and that I even talk about, the gift that I received was being an athlete. And so those mindsets, that's what's at the root of how I move. It's like, no, it's still time on the clock. No, game ain't over. All right, we're down, but game ain't over. We can make some adjustments. All right, what do we need to do? It's like, all right, boom. All right, make the next play. I dribbled off my foot. All right, cool. My bad. Let's go. Play some D now. Get it back. Like you're always in the game. You're always. You know what I'm saying? And so with that mindset, right, start thinking and looking at, wait a minute. And then looking at my boys and I wanted to be better. And so I started to learn these things. I started to explore and I started to question and challenge. And my questioning and challenging opened the door to have these healthy conversations and to explore. And I had to erase that old mindset, right? I had to erase that old mindset and, right, start to build and develop a new mindset. Here's the beautiful thing. We've been talking about divorcing our trauma and such, right? Your identity, you get to create it, you get to build it. And so, whatever it was that got you to this point, great. You get to decide what happens next. That's why my rule is what happens next is up to me. Because I'm not limited to, right? I'm not limited to this. I'm not limited. You're not limited to, you see what I'm saying? You're not. And so, we have to, right, we have to own that, but we have to break up with divorce, the trauma, so that we can even start to consider whether there's truth there, whether that's a belief system that we're willing to adopt. And the challenge there is that we're so, again, as I said in the beginning, we're so faithful and committed. I mean, we're in this covenant relationship with our trauma. We don't want to let it go. And until we are willing to break up with, right, that old version of us, right, that's being run by what had happened was, and decide to, right, to adopt a new version of us and build a new identity around the choices and options in front of us, and around healing and growth and development and new information and open-mindedness and all the sorts, we'll forever be stuck until we decide we no longer want to be stuck and that we're going to move differently. All right, I see a lot of comments. Let me see here. Boom, 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 boom. Oh man, she said, I realized I was being used. Yeah. When you have that realization, examine it first, because sometimes maybe we're jumping the gun. And then sometimes it's like, okay, does this actually make sense? What's this? But then if you don't want to if you don't want to engage in that way, again, there are no rules. You make the rules. She said, I'll be, they can go. Exactly. I love it. All right, let's see. Da, 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 da. Share my parents for you. I'm trying to get to these comments. I appreciate y'all. Da, 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 da. I can't believe you're flirting still. I'm there now. Oh, no, no, no. She was talking about because I always say I'm flirting with 50. Mean I'm approaching it. I got my AARP card. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Da, 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 da. Yeah, da, 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 da. All right, let's see. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Yeah, so this is good. So we had a really good exchange here. Some great information came out of this. Um yeah. Literally I shook some things off myself. I often say this, those of you that are new, thanks for tapping in. Really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all stay connected on all fronts. Um, but I always say that these when I'm doing these sessions, when I'm doing these, whatever I'm doing, right? Sometimes I just get on here and rant. Sometimes I actually try to do like a teaching, like a workshop, um, and give some information. But whatever it is, it's really me talking to God, and I just let y'all listen in. And I'm always talking to me first. I'm always first partaker, and I'm always examining myself, and even talking through this stuff really put me in a place where I'm just constantly examining myself. Oh man, I appreciate you, fam. Make sure you stay connected. Appreciate you for sure. Um, well, I'm always examining myself, right? And I'm always like, wow, okay, yeah, that's non-existent, but ooh, right there, that shows up sometime. I gotta be mindful. And just because that's non-existent doesn't mean, you know, I just discard it, right? Okay, man. I continue to prepare. I continue to level up. I continue to learn and grow. I continue to invest in myself. I continue to make the necessary moves and do the necessary things so that when, not if, when the test trials and challenges of life show up, I'm prepared and equipped to navigate them. I'm prepared and equipped to deal with whatever shows up. And again, that's because I'm of the mindset that number one, human beings are unstoppable. And number two, what happens next is up to me. And I believe in the power of now. Like I believe in the power of the present moment. That's why my favorite quote is above all else, be present. And that's literally a call to abandon your trauma. Above all else, be present. Think about that. Above all else, be present. That's a call to separate from, divorce, abandon, free yourself from your trauma, because trauma keeps you trapped in yesteryear, keeps you trapped in what had happened was. And when I say above all else be present, I'm putting a demand on myself to bring all of me to this present moment. Why? So that I can have clarity, as I talked about earlier, right? Around my situation, so that I can appreciate my situation. Some of you are ungrateful for the amazing lives that you have right now, because part of you is still trapped in what had happened was. And you're not even able to appreciate, experience, respect the awesomeness that is your life right now. You know, you don't have all the things, but you're not where you were. And sometimes we're complaining because we don't yet have all the things, and we forget, wow, just how awesome our situation is. And so that's why the demand, the call is above all else, be present. So you can bring your awesomeness to this moment, so you can appreciate the moment, so you can be fully in the moment, so that you can take the next right step. Because that's all life is ever asking of us. The next right, take the next right step. We get so caught up in all 38 things that we need to do that we miss what's being asked of us. And it right now, like I wear a lot of hats. I have a lot of responsibilities. I do a lot, and I'm truly blessed to be able to do all the things. But right now, all that's being asked of me is to be present here in this moment and be obedient to God and share this information to continue to free myself and help me to learn, grow, and develop, and to bring as many people who are willing to go along on that journey to freedom with me. I'm not husbanding right now. I'm not fathering. I'm not pop-popping. I'm not, indirectly I am, right? Because I'm putting good out into the atmosphere, and I'm doing what's right, you know what I mean, based on my own definition. But I'm not talking to my sons right now directly. If y'all see this, what up? Love y'all. But you get the point, right? I'm here, I'm present, I'm fully in the moment. I'm not tripping about the mistakes I made today. Yes, I made several. right? I'm not tripping about what had happened last month. I'm present. I'm here and I'm fully present in the moment. That's why if you ask a question or something comes through and it's like, boom, I'm able to grab it and boom, 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 because I'm here. I'm dialed in. I'm locked in. And all life is ever asking of any of us is to take step one. I don't even believe in step two. I only believe in step one because that's all life is ever asking of us. One step at a time. Your quotes are t-shirt worthy. They are. I appreciate it. I'm very intentional about that. That's how I keep them. That's how I keep them together. Appreciate you. All right, I need to dash, beautiful peoples. This was amazing. I done went over my time. Thanks for the support. She Ready 89. You are awesome. Thank you for supporting on both channels, man. You kept things popping for me. Thanks for the comments and likes and shares and all that beautiful stuff. Your support means the world. I appreciate all of you guys, man. Thank y'all so much for continuing to tap in and support and all the things. It really, really, really means a lot. But what would mean even more is if you were to grab some piece of information and actually apply it to your life and then let me know. Let me know how that helped you. Let me know, man, I tried XYZ and man, ABC happened and I'm feeling this. Like, do that. That would be amazing, right? This stuff is amazing, right? Showing up and tapping the screen and all the things, that's beautiful. But what's really beautiful is if you take this information and this energy and put it in the fuel, put it in your fuel tank and use it to transform your life. That that's what I'm talking about, right? Listen, if I can be of service, if I can help you guys in any way, shape, or form, right? If you need to have a conversation, talk through some things, if you need whatever it might be, right? If something's troubling you, and you need some support, some encouragement, you need help unraveling a problem perhaps, or maybe you just need someone to help you as in a sense like an accountability coach or partner, right? Sometimes when we have someone that we're checking in with, someone that's checking in on us, we we can be more focused and get things done, whatever that may look like for you. You know, holla at me, right? Send me a message. Let's have a conversation, and let's make something happen because I want to see you win. Like I want to see you transform your life because again, I believe human beings are unstoppable. So the only reason you're not making progress right now is because you're choosing not to make progress. And when you're ready to make progress, I'm here to support. So stay sharp. Enjoy the rest of y'all evening. Much love. Applying it. That's what I'm talking about, family. Do that. Make sure you stay connected. All right, beautiful peoples. This was fun. See y'all in these streets later.